Hello, 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 and welcome. I am indeed the Texarcist. Shane Moore here with the Texarcist Podcast Live. Tonight we will be talking about a very interesting and unsettling topic: the bizarre disappearances in U.S. national parks. There has been a considerable amount of research. Matter of fact, it's a monumental amount of research done by David Paulides. He's written books on this very topic of the disappearances in the national parks. It's called the 411 series, and I would encourage anyone to check it out. Each year, hundreds of people are reported missing in U.S. national parks and forests. Most are usually found, but there's a smaller category of cases that are never solved, including a few close to home. I mean, there's national parks within distance of everyone, so this is not just a, affect them case. I mean, it affects everyone. Most of those who have disappeared are children ages 20 months to 12 years, and the elderly ages 74 to 85. Not one person carrying a firearm and only one carrying a transponder device has disappeared. This is very strange. Typically, a search is initiated and run for about 10 days and then dropped. The ones who are found miles away from where they disappeared in areas seemingly impossible for them to get to on their own. They often refuse to talk about what happened or tell of strange experiences. Others seemingly disappear into thin air without a trace. Tonight I'll discuss the unsettling circumstances and similarities of those who have gone missing in the national parks and much more. So, I'm going to take a quick break and allow listeners who want to join the live chat to do so. And I will be back in 3 minutes for an exciting, informative show.
What's going on? I hope I'm on your mind. I've got 70,000 friends, so I guess I'll be alright. I know someday we could finally be friends, without risk of falling in love again. And I feel now it is time to let you go. Without hesitation. I don't know what I want, I don't know what I need, but I feel a loss of balance when I think of you and me. I don't know what I want, I don't know what I need, but I feel there's something missing, someone's missing me. Was just a waste of time. You got 70,000 friends, but I am one of them. I know someday we could finally be friends, without risk of falling in love again. And I feel now it is time to let you go, without hesitation. I don't know what I want, I don't know what I need, but I feel a loss of balance when I think of you and me. I don't know what I want, I don't know what I need, but I feel there's something missing, someone's missing me.
And I'm back. Hello, Elaine. Glad you joined me. It's just me right now, so I always say one's a lonely number. So thank you for joining. Others are on their way, but anyway, yes, this is a perplexing story to say the least. Stories. I was researching different things, and this came up about a month ago about the missing people in the U.S. national parks, national forests, and how they just seemingly disappear into thin air. I mean, just no trace of them whatsoever. And there's a researcher who was a detective or policeman for 20 years. His name is David Paulides, and he has supposedly researched this, talked with families, talked with some of those who have been found. Although those that have been found, it's weird. They don't talk about what happened, and when they do, if they do, it doesn't make much sense. And I'll talk about how strange stories, strange experiences that they've had. But weirdly, there's a pattern. There's a lot that happens that it's a pattern. There's a lot of similarities between each case, and this goes back as far back as the late 1800s. Although the U.S. national parks were actually started in 1916, so it's something that's there were people that were actually camping out and hiking and things like that, before there were national parks. But anyway, these places are hotbeds of weird, strange phenomena and missing people. And it's very strange. It says each year hundreds of people go missing in United States parks and national forests. Most investigations are eventually solved through reasonable causes: foul play, drowning, suicide, or an animal attack. Others aren't quite so easy to dismiss. Many of them are not merely perplexing, but outright disturbing. The author of Missing 411 books, David Paulides, takes a deeper look into these specific situations which seem to defy all logic. David Paulides is a private investigator who served as a Los Angeles police officer for over 20 years. One day he stumbled upon some shocking information from a park ranger. They informed him about a series of bizarre missing persons cases happening within the national parks. According to this source, these individuals go missing under very unusual circumstances. Law enforcement officials and Park Service management were doing everything in their power to keep these events concealed from the general public. Now, one thing that I learned in doing this research for this episode is that the national parks aren't really national. They don't belong to the United States. They belong to the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO. In 1972, the UNESCO drew up a treaty called the Convention Concerning Protection of World Cultural and Natural Heritage. UNESCO's official website says World Heritage sites belong to all the peoples of the world, irrespective of territory on which they are located. Under Carter, Reagan, the first Bush, and Clinton, the following U.S. national and state parks were put on the World Heritage List: Mesa Verde, Yellowstone, the Everglades, Grand Canyon, Redwood, Mammoth Cave, Olympic, Great Smoky Mountains, Yosemite, Hawaii volcanoes, Carlsbad Caverns. This one, Cluane, Wrangell, St. Elias, Glacier Bay, Tatshin, Shanini, Alsek. I have no idea. Also listed were these historic sites: Independence Hall, Statue of Liberty, National Native American Cultural Sites, Monticello, University of Virginia, Waterton Glacier International Peace Park. By signing on to UNESCO's convention in 1973 under Nixon, the U.S. agreed to manage our parks according to standards set by UNESCO, giving up our sovereignty over our territory and submitting to the UN agenda. So I did not know that. But anyway, the age range of most of the people who've disappeared are children ages 20 months to 12 years, and the elderly ages 74 to 85. Now that's strange. That's I mean, if it was a predator, if it was animal attacks or whatever, there really wouldn't be that age range. I mean, that's highly unusual. It's very strange. And I just want to say now that within the national parks, there's so many things that can happen that can go wrong. Such as when someone goes missing. I mean, it's not like that everyone that goes missing, it's a huge mystery or anything. I mean, some people they just get lost, and it's very easy to do when they get off of the trail or the hiking trail or bike trail or whatever. But there are people that have reported that they have been on a trail, and these are like experienced hikers and mountain climbers and things like that, that they have been on the trail. They didn't get off the trail, but get this, the trail changed. And it's like they were on the trail, and then one man said that that his vision became very acute to where he could see the individual branches of the trees and the blades of grass and everything. But as far as seeing things in general, he couldn't. It was very, his sight was very disoriented. And he said that the trail changed, literally changed, that it wasn't there anymore, and that there were things that seemingly changed in the woods or the forest itself, and it just didn't seem like he was in the same place. So that could be one thing. How people, they seemingly just disappear into thin air, like I said. And there's been search parties that have searched for people, and those that have been found, they have been found in places that has been covered like 100 times, 50 times, 100 times, and they go back and there the person is, and it's like they were placed there, but they weren't there before. They were like nowhere. I mean, it's like there's in 1969 the case of Dennis Martin, a 6-year-old boy, in the Smoky Mountains, just disappeared. He and his brothers, cousins, they were going to play a joke on their parents and hide and jump out and scare them, and they all hid behind trees. And when the parents came through, the boys jumped out. Little Dennis didn't jump out. He was gone. And so there was a manhunt of like 1,600 people, and then an additional 400 people that joined, and they like covered every inch of that grid where they could, where the search and rescue set up, that how far a 6-year-old could get, and there's nothing. There's no tracks. Excuse me. There's no tracks. There's no sign. It's like that this little boy was just taken up, up and away, and he has never been found. His dad stayed in that park for 2 months looking for him, and never found him. That was the largest search and rescue search that has ever been recorded, and that's still an open case. Very strange case, probably the strangest one out of all of them. But this is something very shocking, is that 50% of the children who go missing are found dead, unfortunately. And the ones who are found miles away from where they disappeared, in areas seemingly impossible for them to get to on their own. Namely, high elevations like mountaintops, or steep, the top of some sheer cliff or something like that. 550 feet above sea level. Sometimes it's more, 800 feet, whatever. And it's like, how does a little child get up there? I mean, and then there's different things about most that are found. They're found with their clothes on backwards or inside out, which, says that their clothes were taken off at one point, or they took their clothes off. Now, that's something that some people do when they start to experience hypothermia, is they feel that their skin's burning, and so they take their clothes off, and but they usually die of hypothermia before they put their clothes back on. So that's strange in itself. Another very strange thing is that many are found without their shoes or socks, but their feet are not dirty. Their feet aren't cut. Their feet have no abrasions. It's like that they have been lifted or something. Okay, you can't hear anything. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Hold on just a second. Having a little bit of problems with I think it might be Elaine just having problems, so just hold on. But anyway, okay, Elaine's the only one on the chat, so I don't know if people can hear me or not, so I'm just going to wait for her to let me know. Anyway, I hope you can. I'm going to proceed. So, it's like, how do these people get there? These children get there? And why are some found dead, some are found alive, and some even tell stories about being taken care of by the big wolf or the big bear, and different accounts, which I'll get to, there have been, parents that have seen, or a parent that has seen, like a bear cradling a little girl, cradling a little girl with its legs, arms, whatever, and sets the kid down and runs away when it sees that there's a grown-up there. So they ask the little girl what happened, and she says, well, the bear took care of me, or the wolf fed me. Oh, okay, thank you, Elaine. Okay, it was showing unavailable. But the little girl says that there were two different cases where one little girl said that the bear took care of her, and her father said that he saw the bear. As strange as it sounds, that was holding this little girl in its arms, like its legs like arms. And was like cradling the child. And that is really strange. You say sometimes mother animals will take over based upon their instincts. It must be. Must be the case. My thought would be that a bear, of all things, would be like, okay, it's time to eat. Really. I'm not trying to be funny. That's what I would think. But this little girl says, that the bear took care of her. And I think it was the father said that when the bear saw him, the bear put the little girl down and like walked off, or, like ran off, and was like, done, Goldilocks and the Three Bears. But this little girl, she said that, she told her mother, I believe it was, she said that the big wolf took care of her and fed her berries during the time she was missing. And it's like something had to take care of this little girl, because she was missing for, I think, two days, 2 nights, and it got down close to freezing. So she would have died of hypothermia if she wasn't, if something didn't take care of her. This little girl was like 3 years old, which is very strange, because, go figure. A 3-year-old out in the cold like that, out in the elements. Yeah, they're most likely going to die. Of hypothermia. But it says that that one of the things that is common in a lot of the cases is that the people are usually out picking berries. I know that's very strange, but they're usually picking berries, and when one of the family disappears or just seemingly vanishes. Okay, now get this. Those that have disappeared, they often reappear in a field of berries. Strange, isn't it? It's like a Stephen King movie, or Stephen King book or something. That, there was a man that I'll talk about later, that was in Michigan, was going to go skiing, and he just vanished. His footprints were literally in the snow, and they found the skis, they found his equipment, They didn't find him. This guy was missing for 15 months. And when he came to, or whatever, he came to in a field of berries 700 miles away from where he went missing. Only 40 miles away from his father's house. So he made it to his father's house, and this is a very strange case, but made it to his father's house, and he went on to graduate from college, taking courses in linguistics and psychology, and got his PhD. And when he was contacted by David Paulides to talk about what he had been through, talk about his disappearance, he refused to even talk with him, refused to even share one word about what took place. When he was found, he was offered help, like as far as psychological counseling, and he said he didn't need any help. There was nothing wrong with him psychologically. And obviously there wasn't. I mean, the guy wasn't kidding, But I find it very strange that, people were looking for him, people were worried about him, and 15 months later, this guy just appears out of nowhere, and he doesn't, he doesn't want to talk about, what happened. I mean, I'm not being rude, but I want to know, tell me. Man, maybe it's that he doesn't remember. I don't know, but it's very strange. I think you'll agree. In all cases, the parents say that the child, or not just, parents, but the people say that the person that went missing, or the child that went missing, was right behind them, or was right ahead of them when they disappeared. The majority of children who have disappeared had dogs with them. In some cases, the dogs returned, but the children never did. Children found alive won't talk about their experience or say they don't remember what happened to them. And that's not only children, but adults too. They're usually found running a low-grade fever and appear traumatized. Usually the children are wearing bright, colorful clothing when they disappear, and even if they're found miles away without the shoes they were wearing, their feet are not scratched or bruised. So that's very unusual, because in most of these national parks, it is a killer as far as, there's thorns and thickets and sharp stones and God only knows what else. Very, very strange that they're found without their shoes. Now, an equally strange thing is that there have been people that have found these massive piles of shoes in the national parks, believe it or not. Some of these shoes are from the 50s, from the 1950s, up to, present day. Shoes, which is very strange. That's what's going on. A pile of shoes, probably from people that went missing back in the 50s. So, you take 1950, that's like 70 years, right? So, if there's, someone that's hey, Jacob, glad you joined us. If there's someone that is, taking people, or, taking children or whatever, taking old people, mature people, then, yeah, they wouldn't be taking their shoes way back from the 1950s. It just wouldn't be possible for someone to do that for that long. My God, they would be like in their 90s. if not older. Many of the areas that people have disappeared from carry such names as Devil's Gulch, Devil's Lookout, Twin Devil Lake, the Devil's Punch Bowl, etc. Perhaps named to reflect the evil people have sensed in these places over time. And a lot of these places were named and are avoided to this day by the Native Americans, the Native American Indians. They won't set foot on certain parts of these national parks. So, that's very strange. But one thing is that the Indians, they're pretty spot on about things like that. I know me personally. I mean, if I was going on land or property, and the Indians told me, "Hey, you don't want to go there," I would definitely listen to them. I mean, I might go ahead and go on anyway, but I would not discount what they said. Not at all. But one thing too is that there have been these massive searches that have been started. In 95% of the cases, bad weather strangely follows a disappearance, washing out footprints and other clues and making it impossible to carry on a search until the weather clears. Now, it's not just like bad weather. I mean, it's like really bad. It's like it's like nature itself doesn't want this person found. So it's like a downpour that just washes everything away. And says almost 98% of these disappearances occur in the afternoon. Searchers have been known to cover an area over 100 times only to later find the person alive or dead in the same area they searched before. Now, 98 to 99% of the cases, tracking dogs are unable to find a scent. Tracking dogs, bloodhounds, whose sense of sense of smell is like 30,000 times the human, what a human can smell. So they can't find a scent. So it's like that not only the person has disappeared, but their very scent has disappeared. Their very scent has vanished along with them. Now what's really unsettling is that many of the tracking dogs, and there were many that were brought in on the Dennis Martin case in 1969. There were different breeds that were brought in because these bloodhounds, these big bloodhounds that they're not afraid of anything. They start whimpering and whining and hiding. They're not gonna, they're afraid of something. And it's like, what are they afraid of? I mean, what do they know? They're refusing to go on the hunt, on the trail of the scent, which is what they live for. I mean, they literally live to, do that. So, Jacob, you say it's Native American, by the way, and that's good thinking, listening to us about what land to avoid. Yeah, definitely. That's right. I mean, they were here first, so I'm definitely going to listen to them. I'm not going to laugh at them and go on my own way. I mean, I might still go, but I'm going to definitely keep what they said in mind. Says in a few cases, actually two cases that I have read about. This is very, very strange, okay? And, tell me what you think, Jacob and Elaine. A few cases, actually two cases. The Green Berets have been called in. They have surprisingly shown up to join and or take over the searches. This happened in 1969. Says in with the disappearance of 6-year-old Dennis Martin in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And in 1971, in Newcomb, New York, when 8-year-old Douglas Legg vanished from Adirondack Forest Preserves, Santanoni Preserve, I guess that's how you pronounce it, Newcomb, New York, while walking back to a lodge to change his clothes. His scent was lost in the swamp and he was never found. Now, these Green Berets, when they were, when they were called in, they came in armed. I mean, they're armed. Why would they be armed? I mean, what do they know that they're not, telling? And the reason that I asked that question is because in the case of Dennis Martin, they actually said that the Green Berets came in armed and that they did not share things. They did not work with local law enforcement. They didn't work with the national parks. They were seemingly on their own mission. Like they knew something that everybody else didn't know. And whatever it was something that they took very seriously, and something that that must have really scared them. I mean, they show up, and that is just unheard of. I mean, for the army to be called in, the Green Berets, they're special forces. Now, I did read where this man wrote into some blog and said that he was former special forces, and I don't know, I mean, maybe, I don't know, but the guy seems to know a little bit, or seems to know quite a bit about what he's talking about, and he says that this has only happened like twice. He said 4 times, but what happened in 2 of those times is that there was news of an armed person, or like an armed kidnapper or something. So, but even then, it's very strange for the Green Berets to come in and be armed. Well, this guy says that he worked the Dennis Martin case or something, and that it was a matter of national security. And I'm thinking, what? I mean, national security? A missing little boy, and the Green Berets are called in because it's an issue. It's a matter of national security. How is that a matter of national security? Unless there's something taking place that nobody knows about, which leads to different a lot of different things that, I mean, possibilities or whatever. Just from what I've read from the different cases, there is a pattern, and it's very strange. and it's that the with the children or the people wearing the bright clothes, being found with shoes with their shoes gone, missing, and just the general I don't know, just general things about the berries and people disappearing while picking berries, people waking up seemingly brought back from who knows where. I mean, they're brought back into a field of berries. It's very strange. I mean, it's almost funny when you think about it. I mean, why berries? I mean, I have no idea. But this one thing is that there was one case where the people did not go missing. They probably could have, but they didn't. They were probably close to going missing, but somehow missed it or avoided it. And this is what happened: is that there was this guy that said that when he was about 12 or 13, that he was at his grandmother's house with his cousin. His cousin was, I don't know, 10, 11 years old, and they left the grandmother's house and went fishing at the river. And he said when they got to the river that there was a man there was an old man there that was fishing at the river, and they asked him who he was, and he told them his name or something, I forget now what, or said that he was just there fishing. And they said, well, you're on our grandmother's land. And he said, there's no he said, there's no one owns this land. And they said, yeah, our grandmother does, And he says, no. And they said, yeah. They said, the house is right up there. And he says, there's no house there. And they said he was telling the truth, because for some reason her house wasn't there anymore. And so they're freaking out, And they said that they look around and that everything is like changed. It's like they're in a different place, a different time. And he said that they go into town or something, or they walk and turn a corner or something in the town, turn a corner, and when they do, they things go back to the time and place, and their grandmother's house is there again. But this guy said that he was convinced that it was no joke, and he said he's not kidding, that they like traveled through dimensions, and he said that it was just as real as this one. Now that's something that I was thinking before I read that account, is that what it sounds like is that these people that seemingly are vanishing into thin air, that just like this just like this young man, this boy Dennis Martin in 1969, what if he went to hide behind a tree and actually entered a portal, like and traveled to another dimension or to a parallel universe where he's in a different place, a different time. He's still in the same. It's very strange. it's like he would still be in the same place, but it would be a different time. It would be a different template, I guess you could say. But no one would, be able to find him because he simply wouldn't be in this reality. He would be in another reality. And there were some people that said that they heard a little boy scream. Now that can't be verified, but they said that they heard a little boy scream. Well, could it be that they heard him scream from another dimension because he realized that he was in a different place, a different time, different reality? Maybe he could see the people that were searching for him, but he couldn't get them to, get their attention or whatever. Here's some very strange information on the bizarre vanishing of Dennis Martin. This says that that the Dennis Martin vanished in the Great Smoky Mountains. It's probably one of the strangest vanishings there is. The totally baffling disappearance of a 6-year-old boy. It is a case that, fueled by mention in the books of famed author on mysterious disappearances David Paulides in his Missing 411 books, has propelled itself into a nearly legendary status. It says that on Father's Day weekend, June 14th, 1969, the boy's family was out on a camping and hiking trip they took every year in the Great Smoky Mountains. On this day, the family had stopped off at a grassy mountain highland meadow and popular stop-off point on the Appalachian Trail known as Spence Field. As the adults sat out on the grass chatting, Dennis, his brother, and 2 other boys on the trip thought it would be amusing to play a prank on their parents. They decided they would split up, go out into the woods, and then simultaneously jump out from different directions to startle the adults in what was meant to just be harmless fun. 3 of the boys went one way, and Dennis, who was the youngest, went the other. The reason he had been chosen to be on his own was that he was wearing a highly visible, bright red shirt. Just as planned, the 3 older boys jumped out and scared the adults, but then the men asked where Dennis was. Since the other boys had just seen him a few minutes earlier, they assumed he had merely missed his cue, and so they waited for him to jump out of the trees as well, but he never appeared. Dennis's father, Bill Martin, went out to get his son, expecting that he would be there hiding in the bushes, as he had been instructed, but an immediate search of the area showed no signs of the boy, and calls into the woods went unanswered. Increasingly worried, Bill and Dennis's grandfather, Clyde Martin, hiked out in different directions, farther and farther from the place where the boy had last been seen, and still they found nothing. Park rangers were notified, and a search was launched that would last until nightfall, when heavy rain began to come down, along with the thunder, which hampered efforts to find the boy, and the search was called off until the following day, with still no trace of where Dennis had gone to. In a rather ominous twist, a mere hours after Dennis had gone missing, a family named the Keys reported that they had been hiking around 6 miles from Spence Field when they heard a boy scream. The son also claimed to have seen movement in a bush, which he at first thought to be a bear, but turned out to be a man walking in the woods with something apparently slung over his shoulder. As spooky as this may seem, authorities determined that the location was too far away from Spence Field to have possibly have anything to do with Dennis within the time frame of the events. The following days, the search efforts would quickly grow in size to hundreds of people scouring the area, including park rangers, local volunteers, and the FBI, National Guard, and even Green Berets, along with psychics, bloodhounds, and helicopters. And meanwhile, the news of the disappearance had started making major national headlines.
his parents posted a hefty reward for any information leading to finding their son. They never found him. I mean, the kid. Okay, thanks, Elaine. Thanks for being here. You have a good one too. So, the search stretched on for months, and not a shred, nothing was found that would lead back to the young boy. So it's very strange, very unsettling to think that someone could just vanish into thin air, but that's exactly what has taken place. What my question is why would the Green Berets be called in, and why would that be a matter of national security? We'll discuss that and more when I come back. I'm going to take a quick break and be back in 3 minutes.
It's getting late now. Everyone's leaving. So you call me up like every other evening. Same old when you need me. Kiss me just like before. I am lost now completely. Stuck in your games and you're winning easily. Here we go again. Just like a flashback. Feels the same when you hold me now. Like every time I fall fast, I'm fragile when you come round. I'm back where we started, and we caught it. I can't let go, and you know it too. That's why you're here. So you play me once again, love, and push my buttons once more. I'm back where we started, and we caught it. Playing by your rules, you had me going. I should be on my own now, but you want me to stay here. Same old when you need me. Kiss me just like before. I am lost now completely. Stuck in your games and you're winning easily. Here we go again. Just like a flashback. Feels the same when you hold me now. Like every time I fall fast, I'm fragile when you come round. I'm back where we started, and we caught it. I can't let go, and you know it too. That's why you're here. So you play me once again, love, and push my buttons once more. I'm back where we started, and we caught it. Same old, same old. Same old, same old. Same old when you need me. Kiss me just like before. I am lost now completely. Stuck in your games and you're winning easily. Here we go again. Just like a flashback. Feels the same when you hold me now. Like every time I fall fast, I'm fragile when you come round. I'm back where we started, and we caught it. I can't let go, and you know it too. That's why you're here. So you play me once again, love, and push my buttons once more. I'm back where we started, and we caught it.
And I'm back. Okay. In the in his research, David Paulides says, after researching thousands of cases, He says, I found odd similarities and patterns that emerged. Certain baffling parallels were seen repeatedly despite the incidents transpiring thousands of miles from each other. Some of the common links are difficult to rationalize and not easily dismissed. He talks about the search dogs behaving strangely, that they couldn't pick up a scent or simply didn't want to. They were too afraid to proceed. Says, in other instances, they began tracking only to lay down and stop searching as if the person had vanished into thin air. The body is often found in an area, or the person is often found in an area that has been searched before. It is not uncommon for people or the deceased to surface on a main trail that is utilized by hikers on a daily basis. One strange thing also is that most people, when they become lost, they travel downhill, not uphill. It's a lot easier to travel downhill. But the missing in the national parks are often found at high levels of elevation, such as mountain peaks. It says frequently the victim will travel an astounding amount of miles through treacherous terrain in a time period which seems humanly impossible. And then we talked about the weather-related phenomena, the bad storms and torrential rains. Talked about the missing clothing, especially the missing shoes and socks. But he also mentions high amounts of plane crashes. Search planes and helicopters seem to crash at abnormally high rates during these specific cases. And then this is very interesting. Extreme ends of the intellectual scale. On one side, there are well-educated people such as doctors, psychiatrists, and physicists. Others have disabilities such as autism or Down syndrome. And this is very strange. German ancestry. Those with German heritage appear to go missing at a much higher rate. Now, I have no idea why that is, but anyway. Boulder fields and granite. A high number of men and women vanish in boulder fields or areas with huge quantities of granite. Yosemite National Park is the largest of all clusters and also happens to be the biggest source of granite on Earth. Now, one thing about that is that the quartz crystal in the granite, certainly, it has the piezoelectricity. That's certainly something that that has an electromagnetic that has been attributed to different portals, I guess, if you want to call them that. Especially with quartz crystal, certain rock with flowing water flowing over the rock, but it doesn't have to have water, but the water flowing over that quartz crystal oftentimes forms a portal or vortex. Very strange. And if there's like an underground stream in Yosemite, then wow, that would be a huge electromagnetic portal. It would be very, very powerful. This is another thing. The victim, which is what I just said, the victim is retrieved near a body of water. So you have the water, you have the boulder fields and granite, the quartz crystal. I think that everything points to this being interdimensional portals where these people are just walking along, or these children are walking along, and boom, they take a different step. And next thing you know, they've stepped into a different place, a different time, out of this one into another. I don't know.
The victim is retrieved near a body of water. Another common factor is the presence of water. Bodies are often discovered near oceans, lakes, rivers, streams, or swamps. And the berry picking. And then not feeling well or being tired. Prior to the disappearance, friends and family state the victim had informed them that they were not feeling well or were very tired. And lastly, being the last in line. One of the most recurrent of all traits are those in a group who happen to be the last in line. Others who were with the missing report seeing them a mere seconds before, and suddenly they had vanished without a trace. No one ever reports hearing any sounds, such as a gasp, scream, or an animal. Yeah, that's it's definitely something to ponder. Another thing, in closing, is just the statistics of people that go missing every year. In the United States, there are as many as 100,000 active missing persons cases at any given time. Of the 692,944 people reported missing in 2010, 531,928 were under the age of 18. According to the National Crime Information Center, 355,243 women were reported missing in 2010, compared to 337,660 men. Worldwide, the Wall Street Journal reported in 2012 that it is estimated that some 8 million children go missing around the world each year. According to the FBI, an estimate of about 800,000 children go missing nationwide each year. Fortunately, most cases are resolved within the first few hours. In the event of a missing child, acting quickly is crucial. 74% of abducted children who are ultimately murdered are found to be dead just 3 hours after missing. One missing child is one too many. And I agree. These states have the highest number of unsolved missing children's cases. Maryland with 119, Illinois with 130, Pennsylvania 133, Arizona 142, Ohio 167, New York 211, Virginia 364, Texas 373, Florida 398 missing children, and California is number one with 659 missing children. I honestly didn't know that there were that many missing people, or people that go missing. I certainly didn't know that worldwide it was 8 million just children. It's not including adults. But the number in the United States is staggering, to say the least. Very much so. Very, very strange with the national parks being hotbeds, and there's a total of 59 national parks, and the disappearances happen in clusters within the national parks. These seemingly unexplained, mysterious, bizarre disappearances that take place. Anyway, I want to thank you for listening, and we will have another episode in tomorrow. Tomorrow, Tuesday, April 23rd at 11 p.m. Central Time. I want to give a shout out to new listeners in Independence, Kentucky, Sacramento, California, North Lakes, Australia, San Francisco, California, Huntsville, Alabama, and in Lambeth, United Kingdom. Thank you for listening. Also, new listeners, welcome new listeners, and thank you for listening in New Zealand, Norway, Japan, and Pakistan. I really appreciate you listening and hope that you'll continue to do so. Anyway, if you want to contact me, you can contact me at the Texarcist podcast at gmail.com. You can send me topics that you want to hear, or if you want to tell your story and be on the podcast, feel free to contact me and we will talk. Anyway, love and light to you all. Love you all. Good night from Texas. See you next time.